Hey guys, this is Elliot. So right before we get into this episode, I just want to give you guys a brief, warning. So, at a certain point in the episode, we start talking about Karim Benzema. This is before the news broke that he got called back in for the 2020 Euro squad. Congrats to him. But we recorded that before then, which we had the foresight. But just keep that in mind when you get to that part. But outside of that, enjoy the episode. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the latest episode of Can I Kick It, the number one podcast for Black history of soccer. This is your host, as always, Elliot Barr, and is joining me is a guy that hasn't been on, as I checked, the last 10 episodes. It's been a while.
Feels good to be back.
Here to Durant.
Yeah.
How you doing about that, man?
It feels good to be back. It feels good to be back doing Can I Kick It? It's been a while.
So you know the weird thing? This is our first in-person conversation since the Soweto Derby.
Yeah.
episode.
Yes.
It's been a while. So I'm pretty sure the listeners has missed us. We did a couple of crossover episodes with you guys. Make sure you go back and listen to those. They're pretty enjoyable. But this is the one we've been teasing for a while. We've been teasing Didier Drogba too, so we got to get to that. But this is the one we've been teasing for a while. This is the one that we've been wanting to do, but we had to wait for the perfect moment. I think that perfect moment is now. It is our in-depth breakdown of the 2018, I almost messed up 2018 French national team. And what I mean by in-depth breakdown, I mean we're starting all the way up at World Cup qualifier. We're going through every player that got selected. We're going through every game they played up until the moment they hosted the World Cup trophy. You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready, man. I'm ready to roll. Ever since that World Cup, that's something that has always stuck in my mind. Like, Africa won that World Cup, basically.
Yeah. This is the World Cup for Africa. Everyone will tell you that's Africa's World Cup.
Yes.
It don't matter they're French. That's Africa's World Cup. So before we get into this episode, as always, listeners, take a moment. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast. Make sure that you give us a like. That's how we grow our listener base. And make sure you share with a friend. So let's go ahead. Let's go in and jump into this 2018 French national team. But I gotta say, man, like this. Not only was this French national team black, but they were swaggy, like super swaggy.
I'm gonna tell you something, and I don't think I can take too much credit for it because I think most people that follow the game and follow club soccer and follow even qualifying felt, you know what, France is going to win this World Cup. Even before the World Cup started, they already looked like the favorites to win it.
Oh yeah.
And from jump, even though they lost their first World Cup game, I said no, France is winning this World Cup. With a squad like that,
they didn't lose it. Remember, they won it, but it was like, oh, this don't look good. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Though. Everyone was like, yo,
it's France's to lose, basically.
Yeah. I think the only other team that everyone beforehand was kind of talking, I went back and listened to Total Soccer Show's breakdown of the 2018 World Cup, which, by the way, they do an amazing job of that. And the only team that really seemed like they were like, that can push France was Germany, and we saw how Germany fell off.
Yes.
But by that, let's go ahead. Let's kick off at World Cup qualifying. So France was going in Group A. They had a group of Sweden, the Netherlands, Bulgaria, Belarus, and Luxembourg.
Yes.
So a couple of the key moments. Sweden pretty much kind of pushed them all the way to the final round of matches. It wasn't like an easy group for France.
Yeah.
And you know how the French media is. If we're not, I wouldn't say it's like the English media.
Basically, it is, and that's one thing the French and the English have in common. There is always this notion of if you're not winning and bossing every game, it's a crisis. And
this is also true.
But at the end of the day, this is what I feel, and you would think that being in Europe, that they would understand that the European qualification for the World Cup is the hardest in the world because there are so many good teams in
Hold
Europe.
on, real quick. You don't think CONMEBOL is tough?
Do I think what?
You don't think CONMEBOL is tougher than Euro?
No.
Okay, this is a conversation we're gonna have.
Because I mean,
I truly
you have
think
so
CONMEBOL.
many historically good national teams. You have even smaller countries like Romania have made a lot of noise in qualification in the past. Czech Republic, Poland has even made some noise. Iceland had an upset in the Euros. So you have so many more teams that have the danger of making it.
We'll come back to this conversation probably today. Yeah. All right. So let's get to it. Pretty much, like we were mentioning before, like a little bit of back history. France had not a disastrous, but the 2006 World Cup. They get to the finals. Zinedine famous hub. We all know about that.
Yes.
2010 is disastrous. Like
that the craziness that happened in the 2010. A lot of infighting and issues, and I believe we touched on some of it when we were talking about Nicolas Anelka.
Yeah, Nicolas Anelka, the Hand of God episode. I don't know why. Like this is the third time we've talked about the 2010 French World Cup team.
Yes, yes, because I mean
on this podcast.
Yeah, Nicolas Anelka was in the middle of all of it, and there was issues between Nicolas Anelka and the coach, and the rest of the team basically took Nicolas Anelka's side and said, you know what, we're not playing for you.
Yeah.
Basically. And that's the Cliff Notes version.
Go back and listen to the Nicolas Anelka episode and the Thierry Henry Hand of God episode.
Yes.
If you want more in depth about it.
Yeah.
So that's that. And so then going to 2014, it's kind of I want to say a youth revolution, but you can tell France is now kind of incorporating the younger kids. They're kind of getting rid. You don't really see Ribéry or Evra. I think Evra might have been in 2014. I'm not 100% sure. I feel like he was. Evra's been around for a while.
Evra he's one of those guys that just don't go away.
But Didier Deschamps is the head coach at that time. He left Marseille to become the head coach of the 2014 French national team. And they did well. They were kind of the upstart team. No one really expected them to win, but they did well. Going into 2016 Euros, everyone was like, yo, this is France's.
Yes.
They get all the way to the final, play against Portugal. Ronaldo gets hurt, and everyone was like, oh, France about to turn up. France loses.
Yes.
To a team that won every game in extra time or, draw. So you're, going into 2018, and now we're talking about qualifying, it was kind of like this, everyone was kind of on edge.
Yeah.
So one of the key moments in qualifying, we'll go through all of those as well, happened in October of 2016. You had a 0-0 draw against Belarus, bandaged by an impressive 4-1 home win over Bulgaria, despite falling behind the 6th minute on a penalty. So we're already kind of starting off. People are already clutching their pearls oh, God.
It's like, here we go.
And by the way, 2018 was disastrous for numerous teams for World Cup qualifying.
Oh, yes. No, because I think for the 2018 World Cup, for the qualification, there were a lot of upsets.
Netherlands didn't make it. Italy didn't make it. USA didn't make it. Yeah. So then we fast forward to June 2017, facing France in Slovenia. Hugo Lloris kind of commits a howler in additional time. He messes up a clearance that allowed Oro Toivonen. Toivonen. That's why I have you back on the show. And he scores from the halfway line. France loses 2-1. If you have not seen this goal, oh, it's good.
Oh, yes.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah. Not quite as good as what's his name? Zlatan's almost half-field bicycle kick.
I don't think anyone's ever touching that again.
No one's touching that.
I don't think anyone's touching that again. So then we fast forward to October 2017. France first half goals from Antoine Griezmann and Olivier Giroud wrapped up qualification to the 2018 World Cup with a 2-1 win over Belarus. So they had I would say they had an intermediate group. It wasn't like a group of death where we've seen groups before where you had like a Netherlands, Germany, and like a Croatia or like a Scotland. Like it
And
wasn't
any other team that's in it apart from those ones is just guaranteed not to make the World Cup.
Yeah, so it was a tough group. Like I said, this was the group that the Netherlands didn't get out from. Sweden did, because everyone was thinking like, oh, it's going to be France and Netherlands. Sweden's going to finish third. Bulgaria, Belarus, and Luxembourg are kind of going to fight it out for fourth. But that didn't happen.
No, and it goes to show you. I mean, how quickly the tides can turn in the world's game. I mean, you can have, and we can even hail back to the heydays of Brazil, like 2002, where they had that unbelievably unfair squad that completely took the world by storm. But then the following World Cups after that, it's like once that group of players are phased out, there's nothing coming up after. And that happens with so many different countries. You look, it happened with Germany. It's happened with the Netherlands, obviously, with them being out. And I'm predicting that it looks like it's something that's going to happen with Belgium. And so it's one of those things that you never know when the team's going to pop up with a crop of stellar young players.
No, not at all. And I mean, so on that point, that is the interesting thing about international football, because it's not like you can use transfer. It's not like how at club football you can buy a player if you got an agent striker. You're stuck with the people who
have a passport.
Yeah, you're stuck with them. They're not going anywhere. So you got to be smart on how you build these teams over the longevity, and you're gonna have downs, upgrade. The USA is kind of going through that now, where we've been through a down period. Mm-hmm. Even downer, and we're trying to build it back up, but it's slowly getting there. And we won't see the fruits of the labor from maybe another 2-3 cycles.
Exactly.
So stay positive, USA fans. Who knows? Maybe we might be like France. But France in the group finished on top spot. 7 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. 18 goals scored, only 6 given up.
Yes,
that's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. Griezmann and Giroud scored the most goals in qualifying with 4 goals each. Gamero, Lamar, Payet, Pogba all had 2 goals each, while Matuidi and Mbappe had 1 goal each. Now, there's a couple of names in that list I want you to keep an eye on when we talk about how the roster was built. Yeah. Gamero, Payet, Mbappe.
Yes.
Listen out for those names, and then you'll get the tone of this. So let's talk about how this roster was built. So, let's start off with this. 17 out of 23 players on the team had ties to Africa or the Caribbean islands. And the reason why this is important is because of how France builds their national team. So, real quick, for those who don't know, we're just going to assume, there's a good documentary out there. I believe it's called Red, Blue, and White. It talks about the French national team. I think the 2010 French national team, where
blue, white, and red. That would be. Yeah.
There you go.
Yes.
Where they pretty much just talk about how the makeup of the team is. When we're winning, we're all French. When we're losing, we're African.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's kind of the way how the French team is looked at. When they're winning, we're all one. We love you. Hey, we're best friends. When we're losing, it's, oh, we don't need you. You're African. We need more of us.
Yeah.
So, real quick, before we talk about how this roster is broken down, let's talk about why is this so important to have 17 out of the 23 not only recognize their African origins, because a lot of these players do, but also why was this World Cup dubbed Africa's World Cup?
Yeah. I mean, for one, there are a couple that were left out that could have made the squad just as easily as not making the squad.
Yeah,
I mean, this showed more so the vast talent pool that France had. Lacazette didn't make the squad. Mm-hmm. He's obviously of African descent. Martial didn't make the squad. He's obviously of African descent. Kingsley Coman. So you have a group of players who just as easily could have made the squad, and that would have been more of African and Caribbean descent players.
But the thing is like with this French national team, if you put Lacazette on the team, are you leaving Mbappe at home? No. If you take Kingsley Coman, are you leaving Pogba at home? No.
No, you're not.
And that's the crazy thing about this French national team. Like the B squad probably could have got to the quarters.
Exactly. The B squad probably could have done almost just as well.
And the C squad is probably getting to the round of 16. Like
Exactly.
That's how deep this French national team was. And it's insane when you think about it, yo. Like they got more people coming up now. Like more people.
Yeah.
So, like Shanair alluded to, Didier Deschamps, when he did his World Cup roster, pretty much he left out Andre Lacazette, Kingsley Coman, Etienne Rabat, Kevin Gamero, Anthony Martial, and Karim Benzema. Karim Benzema we will get into because that is an interesting story why he got left off.
Exactly.
He also left Dimitri Payet and Rory Koscielny through injury, but their replacements Namia Fekir and Adel Remy, they weren't bad either.
No, Fekir had moments in the World Cup where he every game where he came on as a sub, he had two or three moments where you thought to yourself, what would happen if you gave this guy 90 minutes? Because he was basically France's super sub.
Oh yeah,
throughout the World Cup.
Yeah. So this is who Didier Deschamps called up. Of course, Hugo Lloris, he plays at Spurs. Benjamin Pavard at Stuttgart. Kimpembe for PSG. Varane, Real Madrid. Umtiti, Barcelona. Pogba, Manchester United. Antoine Griezmann, Atletico Madrid. Thomas Lemar, Monaco. Olivier Giroud, Chelsea. Kylian Mbappe, PSG. Ousmane Dembele, Barcelona. Tolisso, Bayern Munich. N'Golo Kante, Chelsea. Blaise Matuidi, Juve. Steven Nzonzi, Sevilla. Steven Mandanda, Marseille. Aldo Remy, Marseille. Nabil Fekir, Lyon. Sabidi, Monaco. Florian Thauvin, Marseille. Lucas Hernandez, Atletico Madrid. Benjamin Mendy, Manchester City. Alfonso Areola, PSG. That is a lot, and that
that's a lot. But when you look at all of the variety of leagues that these players come from, because if you compare it to the two World Cup winners before, Germany and Spain, most of the German players played in Germany. Yeah. Most of the Spanish players in that Spain 2010 Spain squad that won the World Cup played for either Real Madrid or Barcelona practically.
Atletico Madrid.
There were probably a couple from Atleti, one or two.
Yeah,
from Sevilla.
No, that's very true.
But so now you literally have, so many different countries represented. So this is another thing. Not only do you have people from different backgrounds, but you have people playing for clubs that have completely different styles, and they still manage to get this thing together and put on such a performance.
Because how many times have we seen it when you throw a national team together and, like, for instance, England. One of the biggest knocks against the English team is that everyone plays in England. Everyone plays the same. So when you throw them up against a team that does something completely different, no one's on the team is used to it because they're used to seeing one certain style.
Exactly.
Where in France, you have someone that's used to playing against English teams, someone that's used to playing against German teams, someone that's used to playing against French teams. All over the place, you have this, I guess you could say, kind of flow between the teams.
Yeah, and also you see, and a lot of times with these World Cup coaches, they've been around the block.
Yeah.
Most of England's coaches only coached in England.
Yeah.
So again, even at the head, there's no knowledge of how they do it elsewhere.
Yeah. No. So, like we mentioned before, 17 players on this team are from Africa and the Caribbean descent. Mm-hmm. And the reason why that's important to know is because France has a lot of territories in Africa and in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
You, for instance, my friend, are Haitian.
Yeah.
Which happens to be a territory of what? France.
Well, used to be.
Well, in a different world, sir, you could have played for France national team and not be doing this podcast. So, let's be real here. But yeah, trust me, we did the deep research on this. I spent nights on this. So, Kimpembe, Congolese and Haitian. Rafael Varane, Martinique. MTT, Cameroon. Pogba, Guinea. Lamar is Guadeloupe. Mbappe is Algerian and Cameroon. Dembele is Martinique and Senegalese. Tolisso is Togo. Conte is Mali. Matuidi is Angola
and Congo.
Congo, there you go.
Yeah.
Steven Nzonzi is Congo as well. Madanda is Congo. Remy is Moroccan. Fakir is Algeria. Sidibe is Mali. And Mendy is Ivory Coast. And Alfonso Areola is Filipino and Lebanese. And this is the interesting thing about Alfonso Areola. He is the first player of South Asian descent to not only play in the World Cup, to be in a World Cup final squad, and to win a World Cup. The first player. It's kind of dope.
Yeah.
Kind of dope. But just the uniqueness of this squad by itself, you gotta think, man, like, if a lot of these players played with their, actual national teams, like, I'm not gonna lie, man, I'm putting my money on Algeria.
Yeah, Algeria making a big deal because we got to think about one player who was left out. Benzema is of Algerian descent.
So think about it. Algeria could really have Benzema, Mbappe, Fakir, and who's the winger from Man City? He used to play at Leicester. I can't think of his name right now. It's escaping me.
I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, God, his name. I can't think of his name right now. But you get what I'm saying? Like, that Algeria could have had all of them.
Yes.
All of them. That's insane to me. Also, like, Cameroon, in TT, like, you got to...
Cameroon has had a pretty good run. Congo has had several, at least 3 or 4 from the Congo. So it shows that the footprint that some of these European countries have around the world. So
on the episode that just dropped with Chop Soccer House that we did, we talked about pretty much the Boateng brothers and how one Boateng brother decided to go with his heart and play for Ghana, another one decided to go with Germany. It is no wrong either way you got to, but it's just like how the one player career goes differently, kind of based on what the nation that he chooses versus the other.
Yes.
And you can see that, and not saying like a lot of these French players made that decision, but you can see that in terms of you're worth an extra 1 to 5 million with French international to your name versus Congo
or,
international.
Yeah, or Ivory Coast. Or
the teams that are interested in you is different based on where you play. Like, I'm pretty sure like transfer moves are a lot different, So getting that French international towards your name opens up tons of doors.
Yeah.
And
you do get that situation of certain players being a little more realistic and realizing, okay, if I don't feel that I'm up to scratch, I'm not going to apply. I'm not going to try to make a certain squad. Like, for example, if you look at Diego Costa, he decided to play for Spain. Around that time, he felt there's no way I'm making it in the Brazil squad.
Yeah.
So he wants to play international soccer.
Or like a Leon Bailey that decided to go with Jamaica instead of going England because he looked at it like, 1, I don't play in England. 2, I'm probably going to have a better chance of making a roster with Jamaica than I am with England.
Yes. Because in terms of, where does he play on the field? Like he's usually
left mid, left wing.
Mid. Exactly.
And so you got Raheem Sterling.
Yeah, you have to get past players like Raheem Sterling,
Marcus
Rashford, Jadon Sancho, players like that. Good luck.
Yeah.
Even Phil Foden or Mason Greenwood could do a job on that side. And
definitely now.
So
like choosing where you decide to go internationally is very important. And I mean, we've talked about it a lot with the French media. It's kind of like this thing of a lot of these players have to really prove they are French.
Yes.
Because if they, like, already coming up to 2016 Euro defeat, there was talk, there was things of, like, everyone that was a fan, like, how we were, we knew this French team is probably the best built roster out there.
Yes.
The only issue was Didier Deschamps. Like, can he get it together?
Yes.
Improve it. And it wasn't even, it wasn't the players themselves, but the media was like, can these players prove they're French? Can they prove that they can represent this nation? Are they good? Because a lot of things around this time, not only, if we go back to 2018, I know we've been through a lot since then.
Yes.
A whole pandemic.
Yeah.
But if you go back to 2018, remember, Mbappe just had an amazing season with Monaco.
Yep.
Pogba was coming off of Euros. Payet and them, I believe, were coming off of a Euros.
N'Golo Kante's won the Premier League twice.
Yeah, like Hugo Lloris was having, I think, just coming off a wonder season with Spurs.
Yep.
Antoine Griezmann with Atletico Madrid. So you had players in great, good form.
And even players like Olivier Giroud, who is considered a classic number 9, even though his towards the end of his tenure at Arsenal, it wasn't all that great. But you could see that it was known that Olivier Giroud was a top striker. Even looking at players like Ousmane Dembele going into Barcelona and playing alongside players like Messi and Suarez and whatnot.
And he's the only one, I will say, that if you had to remove a part, he's the only one you can look like, all right,
You could have gone.
Maybe like Lacazette. Come on. That's the only way. Because at that time, he was struggling in Barcelona with injury. He wasn't really,
He wasn't really. But then you look in his position, who else? Because, Lacazette is more of a central striker, and you're not picking Lacazette over Griezmann or Giroud at that time. Definitely not. So I think Ousmane Dembele gets in basically off of technicality and off of general principle.
Maybe so.
There's not really as much of availability for his position and what he does on the pitch. At this point now, I think they would have to think twice about that, and he would need to step up his game in order to be considered for the next World Cup. But apart from that, the rest of the squad just solid players who were having great seasons in their respective clubs.
Yeah. So let's talk about. We're talking about the racial makeup of the team. So let's go into this part. So soccer, like we know, is the most optimistic mirror for any country. Like if you want to show, like, hey, my country's doing great, let's do soccer. Prime example: Argentina winning the World Cup with a dictator. Brazil winning a dictator while killing a couple of people. France in '98 for prime example. So France wins the World Cup. Zinedine Zidane's face is illuminated on the Parc de France. It's one of those famous images that everyone knows about. It was the country leading December. The reason why we're talking about this 98 squad is because this 98 squad was the World Cup winner.
Yes.
And this was the best French team since that 98 squad. You might get argue 06, but yeah.
Yeah, 06, I feel like they kind of stumbled their way into the finals.
Yeah. So, however, the promise of '98 took a turn towards the ugly truth 12 years after the French team that won the World Cup was widely praised for their multi-ethnic nature, black, white, and Arab. It was seen as a symbol of the more diverse nature. So, it's kind of like the French media is kind of playing this name, like, we can bring black and white and Arab people all together and win stuff.
Yeah.
But then you look at examples of 02 and 2010 and see how that's kind of flipped around. One of the things that really got brought up was the questions about the French team ethnic credentials in this stupid conversation that, are you really French enough? After the '98 victory in Brazil, the far-right leader of the Front National, Jean-Marie Le Pen, argued that some of the team were foreigners who didn't know how to sing the national anthem. Because you don't know how to sing the national anthem. Are you really French? Like, really? Like, come on, my guy. Like,
that the thing with comments like that and that usually creates a lot of division because the masses, the mob is dumb, to be honest with you. Let's be honest. The mob is dumb, and you can easily just throw out some sound bites, and they'll just follow suit. When you really think about it, does me knowing all the words to the national anthem have anything to do with my performance on the pitch? You look at the German team that won the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, half of them weren't singing the national anthem. You don't hear anybody saying anything about that. The Spanish team that won in 2010, half of them weren't singing the national anthem. And there have been issues within the country of the Catalonian region becoming its own country.
Shanir,
so
wow, you spitting facts right now, my guy.
So I mean, at the end of the day, it just completely created this ridiculous image that it's like, really, I'm a soccer player and you're basing my Frenchness on whether I'm singing the national anthem before I perform.
Right.
It didn't really make much sense.
Not at all. Not at all. So, in years since, there's been accusation that France operated on a quota to limit the number of black and Arab players in the national team. It pretty much just says, like, it was a way to justify the means to limit the number of biracial players trained by the French youth teams. So, pretty much a way of saying, all right, if there's a pool of 20 players in this region, we're only accepting 6 black and Arabs.
Yeah.
And that's kind of messed up to think about, but it's not something that is not uncommonplace here in America. You being an American coach, and I'll give you the spotlight, but pretty much like the basis of, all right, we have in this region of Richmond, let's use Richmond for example, we have 20 players. We're going to take only 10 that are below the poverty line.
Yeah.
It's not race, it might be economics, but it's still a ceiling that's never going to be touched by some players because it's things out of your control.
Exactly.
It's not like I'm being judged on my performance. I'm being judged on
a quota.
On a quota, external factors that has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
So pretty much they found like this rationale and extended to racial stereotypes that white players were more cerebral and team oriented than their fast and strong African and Arab counterparts. Let's just take that part and break that down and why that is so, divisive. Because how many times have we heard it where, for a prime example, the Champions League game between Chelsea and Real Madrid that just happened a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Angel Di Maria went for a tackle. The announcer said, "Oh, the Latin temperament." Now, was he just saying it off the gun, trying to make a quitty remark? Yes. But the words behind it where Latin players are looked at as these hyper-aggressive players on the field, in that context is negative because of you're saying that the only reason why he's acting this way is because of where he's from.
Yeah.
If he was English or if he was, French or whatever, he wouldn't be acting this way.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing that a lot of black players get labeled as fast, strong, physically dominant. We don't ever hear black players get talked about our cerebral down to the game.
Yeah.
N'Golo Kante is not the strongest person, not the fastest, but he's one of the smartest players on the field.
He
Claude
is.
Makelele, insane.
Claude Makelele, Blaise Matuidi, and yes, with a player like Mbappe, you have to highlight his speed when he looks like he's jogging and he's flying past everybody. You have to talk about it, but there is more to his game than his speed. Because if you look, for example, at players like Daniel James, he's fast, but is he as good as Mbappe? Daniel James is freakish fast. He can move, but there's more to it than that. There's the control at that speed. There's the knowledge of when to use your speed and when not to. There's the smarts of how to be able to control the ball at high speeds, which is a very technical. It's an advanced technical ability.
Yeah.
And it requires intelligence to do it, and that isn't highlighted as much with most African black players.
No. Yeah, 100%. And this is the thing where we hear a lot of people in the soccer community of color talk about the way how we recruit players and the way how words have meaning is very true in this statement.
Yes.
What it comes down to is this. Black players are more than just their physical appearance. And a lot of black players will show that to you. The same way a lot of white players are more than just their internal appearance, their quote-unquote cerebral thoughts. But this is something that's just not about the French national team. We've seen this with the NFL, where they do the aptitude test. And they skew it in a way to show that black players are not as smart as white players. Or we see this with the Rooney Rule. You know, it's things like that a lot of black people that we say like, yo, yes, we want equal and fair rights, but you guys are doing this in a way where it's not equal and fair at the end of the day. Why France put a quota on something where your national team has not played well makes zero sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's unfortunate, and it's one of those situations where it's an argument that has been that literally has kind of been played out to this point.
Yeah.
Like it's a debate that has really had a lot of back and forth that has gone on over the years, and you've heard good, plausible points from both sides, but at the end of the day, what needs to be done is to judge a player on what they do on the field. It has nothing to do with the color of their skin, nothing to do with where they come from, nothing to do with their genetic makeup.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, you get this notion of when you see a big player, like, regardless of their race, you think, oh, this player is all about power and strength, and that's what they rely on. When at the end of the day, that's not the case. I mean, we've seen several players. Let's take, for example, Romelu Lukaku. Look at what he's doing at Inter Milan, and most of his performance, most of his goals are not due to his power and strength. Because yes, Lukaku he's a tank, but his game is so intelligent.
No, not even that. Prime example. Let's keep it with the French national team. Paul Pogba. How many times do we hear from Manchester United fans that Paul Pogba was supposed to do everything in the midfield? He's the strongest one out there. Why can't he do it? When Paul Pogba scores the winner, like he did against Swansea, it's Paul Pogba's Ballon d'Or, Paul Pogba's this, Paul Pogba's that. But the moment he loses, it's his hair. It's why is he doing so much with his brother? Why is he dapping his brother up after the Saint Etienne game?
Yeah.
But when
I mean, you get that. That's the media. That's the juicy.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. With black players, it's a whole different set of standards compared to our counterparts.
Yes.
Because
No, you're right. You're absolutely right, because you can look at, for example, a player who went through similar things. You look at the great David Beckham. I mean, he was a fashion icon. That wasn't mentioned as something that got in the way of his game. It was mentioned, but it wasn't. Even Sir Alex Ferguson himself was saying that it's an issue, and the media never tagged onto that. Yet Paul Pogba, he's changing his hair every week. So what?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's insane to me about like the different standards of how we rate players.
Yeah.
So yeah, like we mentioned, you had all of this stuff going on, and this is kind of like the back stuff of this first national team. Not saying this is stuff that the players are thinking about, but this is kind of the storylines that are being built up around this team and kind of ever evolving around it. So let's go ahead and talk about our boy Karim Benzema and why he missed the entire World Cup. He said he'll never play again for France.
Ooh.
So yeah, Karim Benzema plays for Real Madrid. Now, granted, at this time, this man is wearing UEFA Champions League like the goddamn Dunkin' Donut tokens.
Yes.
So he plays alongside Cristiano Ronaldo, and he's heralded as one of the best strikers in the world. He's also of Algerian origin, so keep that in mind. Mm-hmm. And pretty much he claims that he was left out of the team in account to French coach Didier Deschamps bowing down the races. Now, the reason why we'll keep that in quotation marks and we'll put a pinpoint there, because that's what he's claiming on to. It was Benzema, after all, who before the 2014 World Cup stated that if I score, I'm French. And if I don't, I'm Arab. And at once exposed intimately between the French volatile racial politics and soccer, the national sport, between both sport and spectacle matter. So with that being said and that being mentioned, let's also not forget that around this time, you also linked a video of one of your so-called closest friends. What's his name? Valbuena. of like, I forgot what the video was, but you leaked it, and it kind of caused all this discourse around the Europes. Yeah. And Deschamps was already like, all right, look, I'm not dealing with this. You're just off the team.
Yeah.
But what Benzema said is important and is very true. And it's something that we've been talking about this entire podcast about. When I score, I'm this. When I don't, I'm this. You know? And it's crazy to just think like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy to have those... That be one of the things being knocked against you. And the claim that Deschamps is buying out the races, well, what you think about that?
I mean, to a certain extent, in his case, I do feel that statement was a bit of, I wouldn't say naive, but a little self-centered from Benzema. Because if you look, okay, Didier Deschamps is bowing down to racism, yes, yet 17 out of the 23 that he chose are of African and Caribbean descent. And a couple of them from your country of origin as well, Algeria. So I do understand why he feels that way, because let's imagine a world where Cristiano Ronaldo does not go to Real Madrid. The Titanic battle in Spain would have been Messi versus Benzema, hands down. Because, I mean, Karim Benzema, even in the fanfare of Cristiano Ronaldo, showed that he was one of the greatest strikers in the world. So, I mean, he's low-key scoring at least 30 goals a season. While everyone's saying Cristiano Ronaldo, Karim Benzema is just plugging along, just banging goals in, one after the other. And it go to show you that a player of that caliber, I think it's something that kind of slapped onto his ego, and he felt, okay, I'm performing out of my mind, and I can't make the French national team. I mean, I'm one of the greatest strikers in the world. I mean, at the end of the day, even though credit to them, and they are great players, Griezmann and Giroud can't touch what Karim Benzema has done in his career at any point in their careers at all.
Well, I would say this. Griezmann, I exclude from it. Because Griezmann at that point in time was playing like a different... He was kind of playing like attacking mid. He's not necessarily a striker. Giroud, on the other hand, you're right. There's no reason why Giroud should have been there.
Regardless of what's going... In my opinion, regardless of what's going on, I feel that I would go with Karim Benzema. I'd take the drama because Karim Benzema is guaranteeing you at least 3 goals in the World Cup.
But let me ask you this. How much of Nicolas Anelka seeped into Didier Deschamps' mind? Because we know how close Deschamps is with the French national team.
Yes.
We also know that he became the coach after the whole Nicolas Anelka blow up in the 2010 World Cup. How much do you think Deschamps looked at Karim Benzema, saw all the drama kind of around him, looked at that, thought, this kind of reminds me of Anelka, and do I want to... And also, you also got to remember, building a World Cup roster is not like FIFA, where you could just have the best 18 and... I mean, France did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of need guys that are glue guys.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. The 2 things to that. First, Benzema is the type of player, even though he has been with Real Madrid for such a long time, he has the markings of an adaptable player. If you look at all of the players he's played with at Real Madrid, all the different types of players, he's an adaptable player. He can almost fit into any system that has a number 9. Secondly, Didier Deschamps is no stranger to this. The 98 World Cup, he was there as a player. And that squad had some issues that were going on. Zinedine Zidane wasn't exactly a saint throughout that World Cup. Yeah. And there were issues also with Ilian Thuram and whatnot. So he's no stranger to it. And for him to shy away from the best striker your country has because of that, it could have cost him. It didn't, because of players like Pogba and Mbappe and N'Golo Kante and Griezmann and whatnot. Because of magic moments like Pavar's goal and whatnot. it didn't happen, but it could have cost them the World Cup. Just him being scared to bring in a player that was coming with a little bit of baggage.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question, because we know Giroud, how he played at that World Cup. Mm-hmm. His role was pretty much that of the target striker, number 9, stay up top, bring the ball down, drop it off to Mbappe or Griezmann on Pogba.
And that's one of the reasons why I feel like his career was wasted at Arsenal, because Arsenal don't play like that. That was his bread and butter.
But do you feel like Benzema would have done that, or do you feel like Deschamps would have had to kind of switch how Benzema played? Because also keep a point, Benzema didn't make that 2016 Euros either. So it wasn't as if he was there in 2016, he gets cut.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the thing is, Karim Benzema, yes, is more of a fox in the box type striker.
Yeah. More than Mbappe role. And
I think Mbappe creates his opportunities, while Benzema just knows where to be, because he has that instinct.
In that Mbappe role is saying, like, if Benzema's on his team, I don't think he's taking Giroud's spot. I think Giroud is there.
Yes.
I think Mbappe is the one that hurts the most from this, because Benzema's going to take Mbappe's spot, because at this time, Benzema is the more seasoned version of Mbappe. Because he would have been the one running onto those chances, trying to create those chances.
Well,
you know?
We also have to think about, you cannot replace Mbappe's mobility.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he is probably the fastest player in the top flight right now. Probably. There are some that are up there with him, but in terms of big name players, he's the fastest.
I don't think anyone's touching him.
I don't think anyone's touching him.
Homeboy could probably do a 4x1.
Yeah.
Yo,
yeah.
I'm just thinking about this. Mbappe on a 4x1 squad with him, Alphonso Davies, Daniel James, and who else? There's one more person I'm forgetting. And it's like
he was with I know who there's one I'm thinking of. He was with Real, and I forgot where he is.
Oh, Mendy, the fullback at Real Madrid.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that 4x1 squad was
disastrous. I'd win every gold medal.
All right. Let's see how I try. I was doing what ifs. Man, I miss doing what ifs with you.
Oh, man. We need to do one.
Oh, man. All right, so you pretty much had that, Benzema backstory of why it wasn't there. Yeah. And credit, I'm not taking up for Deschamps, but I will say this. I think Deschamps is right in the matter, because the way how he built this team already,
Benzema would make things complicated strategy-wise. Yes,
it would make things.
He's great, but
I was saying,
what do I do with him?
And that's what I'm saying. Like, you're right on the standpoint of he kind of shied away from it.
Yeah,
but I'm thinking about it strategy-wise. He already had
everything was simple, and that would have thrown a monkey wrench.
But not even that. He had to figure out really the midfield.
Yes,
because where do you put Pogba? Do you put Pogba right beside N'Golo Kante, or do you put him out of left mid? Because if you put him out of left mid, okay, now where do I put Fekir and Dembele at?
Yeah.
Okay, my striking options is Griezmann. Where do I now put Mbappe and Giroud? Because the back four is going to settle itself out.
Yeah.
The back four is fine. It's really like
that midfield front.
Yeah.
What do I do? And he had it figured out.
Yes, because Conte takes his spot. Griezmann takes his spot really because of 2016. And I'm not going to lie, 2016 Griezmann should have won the Ballon d'Or.
Yes.
If they win the Euros.
Griezmann wins the Ballon d'Or.
They win the Ballon d'Or.
Griezmann wins the Ballon d'Or and breaks that cycle.
Yeah. That was his. And Griezmann hasn't hit those heights since then. I don't even think 2018 Griezmann is as good as 2016 Griezmann was special.
But I don't think he'll ever hit that height at Barcelona. But that's
I don't think he should have ever gone to Barcelona. But that's a different story. But when you look at the economy of what that team maker was, throwing another peg into that throws everything off.
Yes, it
throws everything off.
Yeah.
And it makes it a lot harder for him. So versus going through the headache of figuring out, all right, I've been working on this system for the past 4 years.
I'm not going to bring in, no matter how good he is, I'm not going to bring in someone that's going to have to make me go back to the drawing board and maybe drop some valuable players because of him.
And the only person he did that for was Mbappe. But that's because Mbappe was so damn special in 2017.
That's because Mbappe was Mbappe, basically.
2017, Mbappe showed him, hey, you better call me up. You know how that
and the thing, but also Mbappe was young. Because he's young, he's moldable. Karim Benzema is already established in his career. He already knows what he's doing, and it's like you have this great puzzle that fits together, and then you take this one piece. It's shiny and it's got diamonds all over it, but it doesn't go anywhere in that puzzle. So it's like, I wish I could use this piece, but it's going to mess the whole puzzle up.
Yeah. And it just didn't work. So we're going to take a quick break. Like we said, this is a long episode. Because after this break, we're going to go into each World Cup game, breaking down Group C, which involved France, Australia, Peru, and Denmark. And can I say right before we take our break, Australia might have the best team nickname ever? Socceroos.
Socceroos.
Gotta figure out a way how to work that into Richmond.
Yeah.
Kick around. Yeah. We're gonna find a way how to work Richmond into this podcast if you don't know that by now, folks. But like we said, quick break. We'll be back after this.